Hello and welcome to another episode of AA Computers and Technology. Today we're going to be taking a look at this GIGABYTE Micro ATX motherboard, model number 78LMT-USB3. So if you haven't noticed, I am going to try something a little bit different today. Instead of doing the video and voice together, I'm actually doing a voiceover of the video which I made a couple days ago. The reason why is because I was so excited when I got this motherboard. I actually just went ahead, took a video, and unboxed it. I didn't really take the time to think about what I was going to say or anything like that, so I thought it would be a great idea to go ahead and add my commentary in after. So if you notice any weird sync issues, that is why. So enough of my rambling, let's get started. We are looking at the front of the box right now, and as you can see, this motherboard supports the latest AM3 Plus processors. It's optimized for the FX series. We have a AMD 760G chipset, along with integrated ATI Radeon 3000 graphics. You can also see that this motherboard is equipped with a dual BIOS, which is great if you're an overclocker, because if your overclock fails, you don't have to go in your system and pull out the CMOS battery. You can just boot it up, and that secondary BIOS will go ahead and kick in, and you don't have to worry about anything. And of course, on the front, you see this gigantic shield that does say ultra durable, and I will touch on that when we actually take a look at the motherboard. On the back of the box, we can see a whole bunch of system specifications. If you really want to take a look at these, go ahead and switch the video over to 1080p, but I'm going to cover most of this during the actual unboxing of this motherboard. So let's go ahead and take this thing out of the box. And now here's the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's go ahead and unbox this motherboard. Okay, so when we first open the box, we can see a I/O panel, along with an IDE cable, and then this is going kind of slow, so I'm going to go ahead and say everything else that was in there. There's also two SATA cables, which you can see right now, and then below that was the user's manual. And then, of course, we have some drivers included with the motherboard. So you can see that the motherboard was packaged in a nice little anti-static bag, which is great. Go ahead and figure out how to get this thing out of here. And you know what? I think I'm just going to fast forward this because you guys probably don't want to watch me struggle opening this bag. Okay, and there is the motherboard in all of its Micro ATX glory. Okay, and here we are, and the first thing that you really notice when you take this motherboard out of the box are all of the flashy heat sinks. You can see the one in the center is branded with the GIGABYTE logo. The second thing that really caught my eye is the fact that this motherboard is fully equipped with solid-state capacitors, which is great. They're less sensitive to heat. They have a much longer lifespan than their standard electrolytic counterpart. So they really built some durability into this GIGABYTE motherboard. And the motherboard itself isn't bad looking. I mean, there's a nice black finish to it. And then contrasted with that are the silver heat sinks. So if you have an open case with a window, it's definitely not a bad looking motherboard. And another thing that I really do love about this motherboard is the fact that it still supports legacy interfaces. At the top of the motherboard, you can see a IDE port, And on the bottom left-hand side of the motherboard, I'm not sure how well you can see it. You'll get a better view of it in just a minute. But there is a PS2 port for either a keyboard or mouse. So for all of you guys who are still using either a PS2 keyboard or a PS2 mouse, or you guys that are still stuck to your IDE hard drives, CD drives, and DVD drives, this motherboard is just for you. Looking at the back of the motherboard, you can see all of our various I/O ports. On the far left, you can see 2 USB ports, and below that is the PS2 keyboard and mouse combo that I was talking about earlier. If we move over, we can see the ports for integrated graphics. There's a VGA port along with a DVI port, and then below that, to the right, there is also an HDMI port. So if you really just want to use this motherboard with the integrated graphics, you have a lot of options. Further to the right, we can see 2 USB 3.0 ports. Moving along, we can see a Ethernet port, more USB ports. Those are USB 2.0 ports, by the way, and then our various audio interfaces. Taking a closer look at the motherboard, we can see our AM3 Plus CPU socket. To the right of that is the North Bridge with that nice little heatsink on it. If we look further to the right, we can see one PCI Express X16 slot. Next to that is a PCI Express I believe that's an X4 slot. And then further to the right, at the end, is our good old PCI slot. Moving up, we can see our CMOS battery snugly located between the PCI and PCI Express slots. To the left, we can see 4, not 2, but 4 slots for up to 32 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM. And I say not 2, but 4 because most Micro ATX motherboards only support 2 sticks of RAM, leaving you with a 16 gigabyte limit. But not this motherboard. This motherboard has no compromise. This is really nice. A really nice feature to have on a Micro ATX motherboard because especially for someone like me, I do a lot of video rendering, a lot of animation rendering, and of course I'm a gamer, but I do need a lot of RAM for video editing and 3D modeling. So this is a really nice feature to have on a Micro ATX motherboard. And as you look above the RAM slots, you can see one 24-pin power connector, and then this motherboard is also equipped with a 8-pin 12-volt power connector as well. Moving over, we can see 2 SATA 2.0 ports. This motherboard is only equipped with SATA 2.0 ports. Most drives today can't even saturate the SATA 2.0 interface, so it's not really a big deal. You can also see 4 more SATA 2.0 ports to the right. And then next to that, you can see our dual BIOS. Right here, you can see the various headers on the motherboard. There is the front panel header, which contains the LEDs for the hard drive and power indicator lights. There is also the headers for the power and reset buttons. And then if you have an external speaker or a built-in speaker on your case, there is the header for a speaker as well. To the left of that, you can see 2 USB 2.0 headers, and then next to the USB 2.0 headers, you can see one USB 3.0 header. Further down, we can see some audio headers as well as the audio circuitry. And I'm going to give you guys just one last look around the motherboard, and then we will move on. So I actually used this motherboard to build sort of a rendering / gaming PC. As you can see, I have it paired with a AMD FX-6300. Along with that, I have a GeForce GTX 750 Ti, and I've actually overclocked that card by about 200 megahertz. It's a really nice card by Zotac. I've never actually used any of Zotac's cards, and I'm going to have a review on it really soon, but it overclocks really well, and I'm really happy with the performance of that card. Connected to the motherboard is a 600 watt power supply. And if you're wondering why I put all these nice high-end components in a 15-year-old case, well, that is a story for another video, but trust me, there is a method behind my madness. Now, I have done some light testing on this motherboard. I've only had this computer together for the past 3 days, so I've done what I've been able to do within those 3 days. But as you can see, I'm currently rendering an animation, and for the past 3 days, this computer has been running 24/7 non-stop with full load on the GPU, which is overclocked, as well as the CPU, because I'm rendering 2 animations. This one is being rendered with the GPU, and then I have another animation that is being rendered with the CPU. And as you can see, the temps inside that case, as well as the temps for the CPU and GPU, are getting pretty high, and I've had absolutely no problems with this motherboard whatsoever. The BIOS on this motherboard is loaded with features, including the ability to overclock the CPU, which is under MB Intelligent Tweaker, MIT for short. And then we have access to all of these settings of the CPU, which is pretty sweet, I believe is the only way to put it. As we move out of that, you can see we have our basic CMOS features. There's just some drive configuration right here. Exit out of that. Advanced BIOS features. We get a little bit more in depth. Move out of that. We can configure our peripherals. We also have power management settings. Some more configuration. And then, of course, we have a health status monitor, which is always nice to have. So for $59, this motherboard is an absolute steal. It's packed with features, it looks really nice, and it's really durable. What more could you want from a Micro ATX motherboard? Now really, the only thing that I don't like about this motherboard is that it only has 2 fan headers, which is understandable since this is really intended to be used in a Micro ATX case, which usually only has 1 or 2 fans, but it only has a CPU fan header and it has 1 system fan header. So for me, that's kind of a disappointment because my system has multiple fans, and I would like all of them to be controlled by the motherboard. But as far as complaints go, that is the only one I have about this motherboard. So I think that's going to be about it for this video. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, just post a comment in the comment section. Please do not forget to like this video. And of course, please do not forget to subscribe to my channel. I hope this video answered any and all questions you had about this motherboard. But if not, once again, just leave a comment in the comment section and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in my next video.